Aloha everyone. This video is to help you have your best virtual class experience. So many of us are taking a lot of online classes right now and many in live time. So I wanted to offer up this video to be able to share with you some tips or tricks that can help you to have the most successful and most easeful experience. Now, most of us are dealing with a small space, and then just depends on different types of technology, whether it be with a phone, an iPad of some sort, or a desktop laptop computer. So today I want to be able to go over a few of the tricks that we've discovered work for us in our studio with our clients, and I hope that this will be helpful to all of you. I am purposefully recording this through a live stream interaction so that you can see more of the real deal perspective of what you'd be dealing with. We also wanted to make this video so that those of you who may be feeling a little bit apprehensive about joining online classes would maybe feel a little more comfortable to jump on board once you realize it's not that hard. There are a few steps to get there and it is unfamiliar, but with a little bit of knowing and a little bit of practice, it's very doable, and then it's so worth it. Our clients have been discovering that they're really enjoying their virtual class experience very, very much. You know, I've discovered that in some ways, it's almost a deeper connection with clients. Even though we're not in person, there's something a little bit more intimate about this environment because we're in each other's homes. We have close-ups of each other like never before. And so in ways, I think there's so much benefit to this virtual platform. So I wanted to be able to share some of the ways that you can make it most worth your while and to minimize what can be very frustrating and very annoying when you're trying to get a really good workout in or a really good calming experience. The last thing you want to be dealing with is technological issues or device issues, let alone space issues, right? So one of the main things that we can really control is our space. Some may disagree, right? Because depending on your situation at home, you may not have a separate room that has a lot of space to be able to accommodate you and your moving body. You might be fitting yourself right between a bed and a dresser, right? Or a couch and a table. So again, you want to do your very best with what you've got. And honestly, what you've got, you can make it work. The other thing to keep in mind is maybe your space will sort of dictate what classes that you can do. And there are tons of classes out there. So if you know that it's a class that requires you to be all over the space, maybe that's just not the right situation for you, because also what's important is your safety. You don't want to be running into things. You don't want to be hurting yourself. So maybe picking classes that are able to be contained within smaller spaces. And also knowing you can take modifications even if the teacher is not offering modifications, especially with arms, right? If you can't do your arms wide, for example, arms straight through the center might be a better option for you. So we're going to start off with sort of your space and yourself and what can you do in those scenarios. First of all, I'll just speak about what I'm wearing. Now, if you want to be seen by your instructor, you're going to want to wear clothing that's more solid and that allows you to be contrasted from your background. That way you're able to be seen by your instructor and they can give you better feedback and better corrections, right? So the same would go for an instructor. I highly recommend for instructors to wear solid colors and something that will contrast your space. So in this scenario right now, if I were using my background as my contrast, I kind of have a good deal going on right now. You can see I'm contrasting with my wall. I'm not really contrasting with the stairwell, right? But my top is really contrasting beautifully with all of it. So I have found that these certain colors can work in all backgrounds. So you kind of have your virtual outfit, little stash, if you will, right? And then if I'm talking about now going to my mat, for example, then I have a little bit of a harder time seeing myself here with my dark pants and my mat. They're not the same color, but they're nearly the same color. I'm gonna look pretty good though with my top, right? So in this case, I could either change my clothing, or a quicker fix would be to have like a yoga towel or some sort of a non-slippy towel that could be a cover on your mat. Now, I say non-slippy towel, but in some classes, you might want the slip. Sometimes the stick on your mat isn't gonna work for you. So that's another thing that you're gonna figure out just as you're experiencing things, right? So now you can see I'm contrasting much better with my mat cover. And so I can be seen pretty well here. Okay, so that's a note about the clothing. The other note that I would like to make is about actually sound. So I wanted to start this video off without AirPods so you could hear the difference. And then I'll try it now with AirPods. So now you as a client may not need AirPods as far as you could hear very, very well through the speakers. Instructors though, you're gonna be flipping and flopping, so it's a really good idea to have some sort of a Bluetooth earpiece that has a microphone and speaker so that you can hear clients if you need to hear them. You could also give feedback. The reality is too though, we're sharing the space usually with other family members. So while you're taking a class, it's kind of nice if you can have AirPods in, that you'll be able to really hear the instruction clearly, and one, you won't feel like you're disrupting others in your space and they won't feel disrupted. So we're gonna put the AirPods in, and now there are other details involving how to hook up your ear devices, which might be a whole nother video. But once you get these on, whether you're instructing or receiving, you'll hear the difference. You're gonna need time for that connection to happen, but then once it's in, you're gonna have a different experience, very different experience. So I do highly recommend looking into getting some sort of a device that can help you to have your best online class experience. And you can move around, you're not gonna get caught up in wires, and it's gonna feel like it's a non-thing once you get used to it, right? So I wanted to show you another example of if I were to be in a different color top, here for example, right? This top, you can see does not work as well with my background. I kind of blend in a little bit. It kind of matches my skin, and I might get lost a little bit in my background, right? So that's maybe not as ideal of a top. And again, for the clients who are remaining hidden in the videos, you don't really have to worry about what you're wearing. You could be in your PJs. You can see this top works pretty nicely as well. So now moving on into lighting. Now, when you can get natural lighting, that's the best, right? But you can't always have that situation. But what you can do or try to have be the case is the light is coming at you more from the front. If the light's coming at you from the back, as we know through photography and videography, that the subject is going to be shadowed or silhouetted, right? So you're going to be very difficult to see, and the details will be difficult to see. So right now I'm positioned and I have my camera positioned to where I have some sources of natural light and regular light.
coming in on me. So I have pretty well lit situation going on here. Now, if I were to turn on my backlight, you'll see it might be helpful or it might be distracting, right? So it's starting to kind of draw your attention because now there's this big bright light here and it possibly is even darkening me in the front. So chances are I'm going to work without my light and you're going to see me a lot clearer. And so you could even bring in like outside lighting if you wanted to. You know, these aren't very expensive. They usually tack onto a tripod. This is not an expensive tripod. It's just a quick little vlogger tripod. Then for those who are instructors or who have really dark spaces and you as a client want to be seen, then you would have some type of a light like this. And they usually come with a warm setting or a cool setting, right? So that would be something that could be brought into the mix if you need help with lighting. Now that we've kind of got that sense of lighting going on, let's talk about the camera position. Right now, I have my camera kind of at my chest height. Ideally, it's nice to have the camera at eye height, but somewhere in this range is gonna work, because if you're going to the ground and then if you're coming up, you're gonna be able to be seen by your instructor. But the going down is where we are most times if we're talking about a Pilates class or more of like a restorative class. Yoga is coming up and down. Maybe more of the higher intensity movement classes are going to be up, right? So that's why this range is going to be good, because it suits you at all scenarios. The nice thing about the higher angle too is you'll see as I go down, I get a really nice perspective of my mat, right? And so you're going to want to either prop your camera up, your device, whether it be your laptop, iPad, or phone. You're going to want to prop it up on something. I just have it on our kitchen table. It's our desktop, so it has height. But as I showed you before, I could have my tripod here and I could extend it to be about eye height. If I was using my iPhone, then I would be able to tilt it downward. So that's kind of one of the keys we've discovered is eye height, angle down, because you'll see in a moment, you're going to be able to see quite a bit of detail. So I could also put this tripod, and I like to kind of keep it at this medium short setting, because I could put it on the table and then I could quickly bring it to the floor if I needed to when I'm getting to maybe lower detail-y stuff. But I'm trying to figure out like the main position of camera so that you don't have to deal with it during class and adjust too much for the teacher or for yourself. You might adjust a few times, but again, you don't want to be constantly adjusting. With that said, that's where I would say, you know, sometimes you don't have a choice and you have to use your phone. But a phone, you're going to have to adjust usually a lot more. And then you're also going to have to get really close to it to like peer at it and to see details. So when you can, trying to use a laptop or an iPad and finding a stand for it. If you don't have a tripod, you can easily use a chair with books. So you could have a stool or chair. You could use books or yoga blocks. Always handy to have some yoga blocks nearby for this purpose, but also for class. So for here, I could be putting my, of course it would face this way. I would put it here, right? If it's standing work, usually I would turn it this way. Now, my blocks are cork, so they're heavy, they're sturdy, whereas foam blocks might tilt. So you might have to find extra reinforcement. Again, I'm putting it on a block and then a block so that there's a little bit more height, but I could easily just put it right onto the chair and face it whichever way we're working. Horizontal usually for Pilates, and then I would recommend, depending on the flow of a yoga class, vertical perhaps, and then if you're doing more of a standing class, vertical might work. So, you know, you just get to learn on what your teacher is doing and how you want to see the class. So that's another way you could have your chair with your yoga blocks as your stand. Now that doesn't put it at eye height, but it's still better than perhaps being right on the ground. A stool, a higher stool, like a countertop stool might be really nice as well. So you'll just have to play around with what you've got at home and make it work. So next I'm going to talk about the mat. As you can see, I'm moving my things out of the way because another point to be made is that you want to have your space pretty clear, but livable, right? I don't want to rearrange my whole living room. I want to be able to live in it right after I teach. So I move enough things that I need to get out of the way and have as clear of a space as I can. Now you'll see my mat is already at a diagonal. Diagonal is key for several reasons. One, it's going to allow you to maximize your space a little bit more. Two, it's going to help you to see the camera better, not cranking your neck too far to the right or left when you're on your back. And you're just going to have much more perspective. You're also going to allow your teacher to be able to see more of you. So, for example, here I am on my slight diagonal. I could even go on a sharper diagonal. But if I were to go into a bridge and bring one leg to a tabletop position, you're going to be able to see that I'm parallel versus turned out a little bit better here than if I had my mat fully side facing, right? So this isn't wrong either, but you might not be able to see as much detail for some of the exercises, right? So here you can't really tell as well, turn out or parallel or turn in. Slightly, you can tell, but when I was on the diagonal, you could tell a lot more. And then two here, you can't really tell how far apart my feet are and some of the details in my pelvis, whereas on the diagonal, you can. So I'm going to also now pull it at a little sharper diagonal than I had before. And you'll see, again, you can see some details. You can see how far apart my feet are. You're going to see a difference in my arms, whereas when I'm this way, you don't know what this arm is doing, right? So this is going to be a very, very clear perspective for your instructor, giving you directions. You can really see it, and it's not killing my neck, right? And then I could easily flip here. And now this is kind of a lot for my neck, but it's still doable, right? And then my teacher can really see my back body, or I could choose to be on this side where my neck would be very happy, and my teacher can still see a lot of what's going on front, side, and back in my body. And then I could easily just come to do some seated work here. I didn't have to adjust my camera. I could go to the sides, right? If I'm on my diagonal, my teacher can probably see a little bit more detail. And I could work on the other diagonal too. Absolutely. You would just play with what your space is able to provide. Now, here I even get more arm space on the diagonal, right? So I have a little bit more arm space here than if I were straight on. I was definitely going to hit fully into the couch. But this way, I can do arm circles, maybe not fully with straight arms, but for the most part I could. So you can modify the arms here, right? And then here I can extend my leg out. I'm almost hitting the window, but if I just nudge myself up, I clear the window, whereas before I was definitely going to hit the window. Here, I can pretty much get in a good leg circle. I might hit the TV, but then I could adjust. So there's just certain situations where no matter what, you might have to adjust a little bit. You may have to not only adjust yourself, but just kind of your mat, but you'll find like the sweet spots in your space, right? So even if I were to stand up, I'm doing pretty good here. My teacher can see my legs, my head is cut off. So I would basically just do a quick adjust on my screen. And now again, my teacher can see more of me. And then you would want to maybe move back in space if you have the space. If you don't, your teacher's going to see this. And that's fine too. We've gotten really good at being able to like fill in the spaces. As long as we see the majority of your body, that's really the best thing. And so you try to see whatever part we're working on, then that might be the part that you adjust the camera to, right? So like there, okay, we're doing leg work. So this is the part that the teacher is really going to want to see. Yeah. So that's how you can adjust your mat. Now I will mention just some little extras. This is not necessary, but just some little extras that can help your space to feel extra. Okay. So have the fan going, have natural airflow if you can possibly have it. It's just going to create a better experience for you. Again, make sure the space is clear of things that you don't need, but you do want to have like your exercise prop bin nearby. So you could just grab anything at any time. I've got all my props in here, right? I've got my ball, I've got my band, I've got extra towels to be able to do assisted work with towels. And you've got all your props in here. So you could just grab it at a moment's notice, right? You've got your foam roller nearby in the space. And so you just have those things ready for you and on the side. Now, especially if you're in one of our classes, and we like to use a lot of variety of tools and balls and all of that, it's another thing to help if you have this just nearby on the side, then your balls aren't going to be rolling away. So that sometimes you use it and then sometimes you remove it from the situation and bring it back in and out of the class. So have your prop bin, highly recommended. Also, a television cover, not necessary, but it's kind of nice. So if you just have a really nice pareo or something that just makes you happy, right? A color that makes you happy, just a piece of cloth, throw it over the TV, try to tuck the TV away so you're not breaking it or breaking yourself. And that's another little tidbit that can help you have the space feel nice. Maybe you've got some essential oils going too and just diffusing it into the space. Anything and everything that can make you feel better. Now, for some of us, we're lucky if we are just getting off of a work call and we're getting into class, right? So you don't need to worry about all those things if you don't have the time. It's not gonna make, I would hate for that to hold you back from joining a class. And just then, the internet went down and there was no reception. Things are gonna happen, glitches will happen, sound might be a problem, but we just come at it and we practice and we get into it calmly and we work at it together. And again, if your space is not perfect, it's okay. You could either leave your screen blank or just know that no one really cares because you're in your session, everyone's in it for themselves. We're getting into our breath, we're getting into our bodies, we're taking care of ourselves, and no one's gonna be spying on you and your space. Really, everyone's in their own zone. So that's comforting to know. So I hope that is helpful as far as creating the space for yourself. Now, I know there's a lot of technical pieces to knowing how to work with the online platforms, but that can be another time and another video. In the meantime, I hope that's helpful and join in with as many classes as you can. This is a great time to take advantage of amazing teachers from all around the world and just learn and learn and learn and soak it all up and take care of your bodies and meet new communities. It's pretty wonderful that we can work in this way and still connect together.